How long have we been doing this show, Steve?
This is year 4.
Okay. How hard is it to have our guest ready when we go on the air?
He is ready now.
And especially when he works here.
Our good friend Tim Leonard joining us here on the show. We're going to talk some men's lacrosse. We're going to talk some spring football with Tim. And I guess let's go in chronological order on Saturday. And, you know, you've called a lot of lacrosse. Tim, where does that one rank for you?
Man, I think it has to be number one, honestly. It's right up there. I mean, I was talking to Kyle after the game. Of course, Kyle has seen plenty of great lacrosse games, and he's seen 11 national titles and Final Four games, so it's hard to put it up with those, I'm sure. But if you're just talking just the game itself, and as far as regular season games, I think it has to be up there because of all that went into it. I mean, it's a great crowd. It was hyped up all year. And we were kind of joking that sometimes those games, you know, don't live up to the hype. Well, this one did. And as you guys were talking about, it was a game of runs, but both teams were just playing at a high level. I think the fun thing, too, is it just seems like in the Syracuse-Virginia rivalry, it is always high-scoring and kind of peak lacrosse. It's physical, but it's not dirty. It's just fun to watch, just up and down action, which was fitting because Paul Gates there, and he kind of, you know, spurred that revolution with his brother Gary of making lacrosse such an entertainment product. And that was right up there. I think I'd have to say it's the best lacrosse game I've called to this point, but hopefully they can top it maybe in the postseason now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way lacrosse was meant to be played, right? Fastest game on 2 feet, and it certainly felt like that on Saturday. You know, I was talking with Gary last week, and he brought up the point. He said, you know, we're 5 goals away from being undefeated. We know that they've lost some close ones in overtime, you know, 3 of them. They lost that 2-goal game to Notre Dame. Do you think they learned from those games? I mean, what went right, I guess, down the stretch? And do you think they win this game on Saturday because of what they went through earlier in the year, or are they 2 separate things?
You know, I do, and I think Gary and really Kayla Traynor, too, should be praised for how tough they schedule. And you look at Syracuse's resume right now, we'll see how it shakes out. I think they have a very good shot of getting a top 4 seed just based on their quality of wins. I mean, they're now looking at 3 top 5 wins before we go to the ACC tournament, an opportunity maybe get 1 or 2 more. No one else can say that in the country right now. And, yes, they have some close losses, and they have maybe more losses than some of the other teams that they'll be competing with for those top seeds. But I think the way they scheduled this season, that was them benefiting from some of those close losses and learning from it. And, you know, the fourth quarter kind of started like some of these other games have started. I mean, Virginia scores 5 of the first 6 goals of the fourth quarter, and the faceoffs are starting to flip. There were 2 failed clears in the fourth quarter from Syracuse, and you could tell that they were kind of tensing up, but it feels like they know how to respond now, and they've been in so many of these close games this season. I mean, it has to be right up there. I know in lacrosse you play a lot of close games each and every year, but I just have to think that the guys now have a little bit more calmness in those big moments, especially for a young team. And one of the big differences this year, you've got guys like Sam English, who hits the go-ahead goal. He also hit that goal against Cornell. He's played in a Final Four. Jake Stevens has played in a Final Four. He's making big plays and has 4 points in that game. Owen Hiltz has been around, and he's terrific in that game. Will Mark is making big saves. He's a veteran guy. So they've got a much better mix this year of some veteran leaders that they can lean on in these big spots. And I do think the way they scheduled this season has set them up to be playing with a little bit more confidence in the fourth quarter going forward here.
You mentioned face-offs there. You know, they had to rely on the freshman towards the end there, John Mullen. What did you make of the way he played? And, you know, what can you tell us, I guess, about that position moving forward? Any sort of update on Mason Cohn?
You know, I think Mason Cohn got a little bit tired maybe in the fourth quarter, started to lose some. Overall, he was great. And, you know, Syracuse ended up 21-18 in the game in the faceoff department. You'll take that. They continue to have a huge improvement there. And that was their downfall in a lot of these close games. So it's just nice to be in a position this year where they now have the same amount of time of possession as other teams. And it's nice. I think John Mullen, they think very highly of him. And talking to Nick Aquaviva, who kind of runs the faceoffs, he said that Mason's such a leader, and he is the main faceoff guy. But because he's a leader, he'll take a back seat when he feels like he's not clicking out there. And if he feels like John Mullen has a better matchup or he needs a blow or whatever, he's willing to do that. So I just think it was probably they view them as a two-man tandem. I'm sure Mason will take most of the faceoffs going forward, maybe like 2/3 of them will be my expectation. But, I mean, it's nice to have John Mullen as a freshman backup who I think really in 2-3 years he'll be a first-team or second-team All-American type of faceoff guy. I mean, he's playing underratedly well. It's just that Mason Cone is also out there, and he's also an option for Syracuse.
Yeah, Mullen had some big face-offs late. You know, we've seen now that this team has had some issues holding on to leads, right? Does that worry you at all going into the postseason, or was this just like a back-and-forth game on Saturday that you don't look at it as that there was any issue in terms of holding on to the lead? Is that an issue for this team or not heading into the postseason?
So I think it's an issue in the sense that, yes, that has been kind of their downfall, but also there's reason to believe that maybe after a performance like against Virginia, they go into some of these big fourth quarters coming up and they have a little bit more confidence, knowing that they did score the last 4 goals in front of a huge crowd in a very important game. So, I mean, it's still a worry. I think when you talk about what does this team have to do to get to championship weekend, get back there, be a true national title contender, and they're probably going to be favored in their first couple games of the playoffs at this rate and be in a position where they will be considered, not a success if they don't get back there, maybe based on how things are shaping up, which is exciting. I think that's going to be the big thing is just getting possession in the fourth quarter, not turning it over, playing smart in the fourth quarter. It's the same things that we've talked about throughout the season. They play such a creative offensive style where they're taking chances, and then if you have a lead in the fourth quarter, it feels like sometimes that doesn't really bode well for them because they have to scale it back offensively. So it's learning how to play with the lead. They've certainly had some opportunities to get better at that throughout the regular season. And I would say just the hope is, Gary Gates said at postgame, maybe after making the winning plays in this Virginia game, we can kind of get over the hump here and start to do it consistently.
What do you make of the schedule here that they're off the last weekend of the regular season? They don't play for, essentially 2 weeks. A week from Friday is their next game. Do you like that this time of year to kind of recalibrate yourself going into the postseason? Or are you concerned at all that they might get a little rusty and, have to shake that off in the semis?
No, I like it. I think it's good. Obviously, some guys are naturally banged up at this point of the year, and that's true for every team. So they're probably in a more fortunate situation than some of the other ACC teams. I mean, every other ACC team will not have that break going into the ACC tournament. It is kind of an odd situation in lacrosse where the ACC tournament feels like it's not as big of a prize as other sports, and with how close it is to the NCAA playoffs. I mean, you're talking about you play Friday of May 3rd, the ACC tournament in the semifinal game. Syracuse is the 2 seed, by the way. We know for sure in the ACC tournament. Likely going to play Duke, the 3 seed, team they beat in the regular season. Obviously, that should be a close game. And if you win that game, then boom, you're playing your second game in 3 days, Sunday at noon. And that's, a week before your biggest game of the season, which is your first-round NCAA tournament game, which seems like Syracuse should be locked in for sure to hosting that game and probably looking at Sunday night, I believe the 11th for that. So it's an interesting situation. I think all the ACC coaches don't love that the ACC tournament is back. I think the players like it. I'm sure ESPN and going to be on ACC Network. They like that they have a couple big games. But, that you can make a case that it's almost better for them to lose on Friday, as weird as it sounds, and then be able to rest up and have ample time to get ready for that biggest game of the year in the NCAA tournament. But, of course, all those guys are competitive. I'm sure if you come out of Charlotte with an ACC tournament, you still got a week to get ready. And from there, you can add another feather to your cap this season, so to speak, and continue this run of momentum going into the NCAA tournament.
All right, let's quickly switch gears and talk spring game. I know you were on the sidelines on Saturday for that. What stood out to you from a football perspective?
Well, first things first, just the amount of alums back was really cool to see. We chatted with Andre Sisco, Matthew Bergeron on the broadcast, and just all those guys are really amped up, as you know they should be, and there's good reason to be about Fran Brown. So all the things that Fran has said about open door policy to the alums, that all held true, and I think that's, if anything, underrated just how valuable that aspect of it is. But as far as football, big takeaways were Kyle McCord looks the part. No shocker there, but just the way he threw the ball certainly catches your eye and was very impressive in terms of seeing it up close and personal. And then I think the skill position players, Yasin Willis especially, to me, was kind of maybe the biggest surprise, I guess you could say. I think we had heard good things about him, but seeing him up close, I mean, he's a huge dude and was, running over people, popping pads in the spring game, and really exciting to watch. So gives me a lot of optimism that he's ready to contribute maybe more than I would have guessed going into the spring game. And then you're looking at a very strong 1-2 punch there at running back, lightning and thunder, like Coach Fran said after the game. So I think the wide receivers and the running backs, like the skill position, look great. And then you consider Aronde Getson and Jackson Meeks weren't available for that game. So a lot to be excited about in terms of what they have at skill position. And the team just looks a lot bigger in person and a little bit more physically ready for ACC play than previous teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. 100% agree, Tim. Great stuff as always. We will talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, Tim Leonard joining us here on the show, and you could see him on the TV version of Orange Nation Tuesday nights during the lacrosse season. And
will there be one through the tournaments?
We'll go until they're out.
Nice.
315-437-7644. Phone lines open now until 1:15.
Never stops, Steve.
That's true. We stop for the summer, but then we pick it up football, basketball, lacrosse.
Yeah, we keep going.
I know we do. I'm fully aware.
Better version.
No end in sight with me and you.
With that being said, we're song bracket coming up.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, good matchup today.
You are? You're looking forward to this one?
I think it's a tough call.
I forgot how bad one of these songs is.
It's a tough call.
I'm like, how is this not a onesie? It is terrible.
Yeah. Good tease. Back after this on ESPN Radio.